Anyone who's been to the grocery store lately knows the cost of food, meat especially, is going up. Last year, shoppers paid roughly 6% more for their groceries than the year before. Beef is now some 20% more expensive than it was, leading to massive profits for some manufacturers. The White House and Congress are beginning to take note. So joining us now to give us their take are Nikhil Mehta, a corporate attorney with Smith Amundsen with experience in business and antitrust law, and Claire Kellaway, food program manager for Fair Food and Farming Systems at the Open Markets Institute, an anti-monopoly think tank. And we should note that we did reach out to a number of organizations representing the food industry, but none were able to join us. Claire Kellaway, thanks to the two of you for joining us. But Claire, let's start with you, please. How much have food prices gone up? Are they across the board or something in particular?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, there's been some generalized food price increases at about 6% above general inflation. But it really is in the meat, dairy, eggs sector that we see the largest increases. The 20% beef price increase you mentioned. Pork also up 14% compared to a year ago, and chicken up 7%. This is really where the largest price increases have been.
Why meat in particular? Why is that so much more expensive?
Yeah, I mean, certainly the industry does face some genuine supply chain disruptions. We all saw how plants were closing at the beginning of the pandemic, how labor costs have been up, even random things like supply chains being disrupted by the weather. But this is also a highly concentrated industry. The top four beef companies control about 85% of the industry, the top four pork companies about 2/3, and the top four chicken companies around 55%. And so that gives all these companies a lot of market power.
Nikhil Mehta, of course, America is a capitalist country. How do you distinguish between just very healthy profits and potential price gouging?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think what it comes down to, a lot of the price gouging items that are being watched are handled by states on a state-by-state basis. And when you look at state laws, the state price gouging laws are looking at a certain formula which takes into account, general healthy supply and demand figures. And then you want to look at how far above and beyond the supply and demand normal cost increases that come with supply and demand changes. A lot of states will use a percentage test, somewhere from 15 to 25% increases beyond the standard market price. Some states use an excessive or unconscionable test. So it's really looking at that. Each state is a little different, and it's handled on a state-by-state basis. But you really want to look at how far beyond the normal market price when taking into account supply and demand factors.
So then, I guess, who is responsible for going about pursuing that if local or federal government even suspects that gouging is what's happening?
Yeah, so traditionally it's the state governments that do that. There's state laws in, I want to say 48, 49 states right now. Most of those state laws are triggered by a state declared emergency, which the governor would have to declare. For instance, we saw that with the COVID-19 pandemic. We saw it with medical supplies when there were face masks, hand sanitizer, things of that nature being hoarded and gouged by stores and by different resellers. And so governors declared a state of emergency and targeted those products to protect them. So you need to make sure when you're looking at price gouging, you need to make sure, one, is it a protected product under that state law? And number two, is the price so far above and beyond what the market price really should be, or what a fair market price would be after taking into considerations for supply and demand. So to answer your question, it's state law basis. There's more and more discussion about the federal government getting involved. I know President Biden has discussed this, but it really would need to be something that would come through as a legislative piece.
And Claire, if we are seeing these record profits for food producers, is that necessarily a clear indication of price gouging?
It definitely tells us something. If these companies were just passing on their increased cost of production, we wouldn't see their profits increase. But not only are they not just maintaining their current profits, they're rising at record levels. I mean, for instance, Tyson Foods saw their profits nearly double. And on the whole, corporate profit margins are reaching a 70-year high, and corporate profits for non-financial corporations are up, seeing the largest rate of increase since 1976. So these are just really substantial increases and indicate that there's some amount of pricing power being abused here.
And Claire, of course, the pandemic has caused these well-publicized supply chain issues that we're seeing, labor issues. How much have things like that, and then, of course, now there's a war in Europe, but how much has this combination led to sending prices higher?
Yeah, no, absolutely. There is supply chain disruption that has created some of the conditions that do have genuine shortages, do genuinely increase these companies' costs of doing business. But again, you wouldn't expect their profits to increase as well if it was just really passing on those increased costs to consumers. If anything, the current supply chain disruptions have created a situation where there is some amount of supply not meeting demand, and we are seeing underlying market structures, highly concentrated market structures, in a good place to abuse that. If companies felt like they could increase their prices and have competitors undercut them on sales, then they might not be increasing prices so much. But because all these companies are sort of moving in tandem and seeing that they can all benefit by all raising their prices together and all, maximizing their profits, that's definitely a use of their pricing power. But you're right, it is extreme circumstances, and there definitely is some amount of genuine supply chain disruption going on too.
And Nikhil, before I let you both go, you mentioned, President Biden. Are we going to see any action out of Washington on these issues?
Yeah, we're seeing Senator Bernie Sanders introduced a week or two ago. He introduced some legislation seeking to curb corporate profits, what he deemed to be excessive corporate profits, and I believe it's called the 95% excess profits bill, where he's looking at measuring the profits that were received by a lot of these meat companies during the pandemic, and trying to measure how much is excessive, how much is beyond your ordinary profit due to a supply chain or a supply and demand, a healthy increase, and how much is maybe them piling on here. And so Senator Sanders had introduced that. There's some other legislation introduced by Tammy Duckworth, which is pending. That has to do more with gas pricing, but still kind of on the general topic.
Okay, so a lot obviously for consumers to cover in the meantime, to pay for in the meantime. We'll have to leave it there. My thanks to Claire Kellaway and Nikhil Mehta for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.